How do you start the first brand designated shop in Australia?
You had guys winning Tour de France on the bike. You had guys racing World Cup downhill.
Craftworks. There you go. Pause there for a minute.
Yeah. Rob still is like a bloody legend of the sport. Like, he was one of the first guys to ever be making his own bikes here in Australia. You know, it was pretty rad. Now, Buller was always a favourite to go to, not just for the after parties, but I mean, the tracks and the racing was so good. Like, you were going to these national rounds back then. I mean, back in the day, we had no social, so it was all magazine shit. You know, like, I'm like, he's like, hey, bud, I'm just staying upstairs. I'm a FIFO, you know. I was just on the balcony having a beer, you know, and I just heard the alarm going off. I looked down and there was this guys walking out with bikes, and I ran down and jumped on one of them, but he got away. I got to the final and Dad just said to me, look, you know, you put your mind to it, you can achieve it if you want it. This is where you can get him. And, like, sure enough, that's how it rolled out. And I ended up winning that day. It'd be myself, Frenchie, Matt West, Dave West, Ryan Norton would come along. God, who else? Ben Trigger, you know, and Trigger. God, who else? That was real uneasy for me. It was a good 6 to 12 months where there was that uncertainty, and that was pretty tough. I guess it's worked out in the end for me, but yeah, I guess that probably stands out. Actually, it's in the blood, I think. So, mate, I enjoy it. I love getting out of the races and catching up with everyone. And I mean, even like the last couple of years, like when e-bikes first came in, it was the guy that, you know, didn't have enough time in his day to ride. It was the guy who was unfit and wanted to keep riding.
Oh, you're being polite now. Fat bastard like me.
Yeah, it was the old fucks like yourself, though.
Go. All right. Here we are. Craig Yates. If there was a name I knew in mountain biking that's been on the scene forever and way before me and way after me, it's Craig Yates. Welcome to my podcast here.
Thank you, Zolly. Happy to be here, mate. I've definitely listened to a few and, yeah, impressed. It's good. Good to see some old faces. Definitely.
If that's the case, you will know the first question. If you could be an animal, what animal would you be and why?
No, mate, I've had a good think about this, and it'd probably be an eagle, to be honest, like a big fuck-off eagle, so I could just fly and just go wherever I wanted to, mate. Yeah.
A few people have said eagle.
Have they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You're not the first.
Yeah. Who are the others?
I think Marshy was bird orientated.
Yeah.
What are the others? Oh, there's a couple of like wild animals. But yeah,
okay.
Curious to see what people think. Like, I'm curious to see in the long run, after I've asked 100 people, it'd be good to see. Yeah,
God, what did Foal say? It would be a bloody...
He was a gecko.
Gecko.
Yeah.
Oh, classic.
All right. Start us back from the early days. You're a junior. You're in primary school. Tell us about your family, siblings, where you lived, primary school.
Sure. Yeah, look, I grew up in Halleco Beach. Went to Halleco Beach Primary School. I am the youngest of 4. So I had 2 older brothers and an older sister. So, yeah, I guess my 2 older brothers sort of got me into the BMX side of things back in the day. Lucky for us, we lived not too far from the Cove BMX Club, who, you know, I was... one of their first members up there as well, along with Jesse Carlson and a few other guys as well. So we're only probably a 10-minute ride to the track. So after school, to the races, pretty much every weekend we'd be on our BMX bikes every day. So yeah, it was pretty handy. That was probably from about the age of 9 we started on our bikes up there, just riding around the streets and just causing trouble, you know. But then it just grew into racing. The oldest brother, Scott, I guess he was racing, so it kind of intrigued us. And my middle brother, Sean, he was probably he was the best out of all of us, basically. Yeah, he was, top 3 in Australia in the end, and it was a gun. So I always had someone to chase around and ride with. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah.
And that pushed you a lot for a lot of years?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, I had a local boy I went to school with as well, Dale Wood, who, we were the same age. So each year at state titles, it was always myself or him, that were in the money for the win. So it was always good having that little buddy that would always push me all the way, and still keep in contact with Dale every now and then these days. So it's pretty cool, yeah.
And how many years was BMX racing?
That was from about the age of 9. We started, I guess my first state titles would have been out at Gawler BMX Club. Ended up 4th there. And then, got through to about the age of 16. I gave it up after from the age of 9, Dad drove us everywhere. We went,
All three of you? All three of you
all
racing?
3 of us, yeah. Scott kind of gave it away after a few years, but myself and Sean, we travelled with Mum and Dad, and we'd be anywhere from Queensland to, we drove across to Western Australia, across the Nullarbor to race, Aussie champs over there. That was a massive experience because they had a few pros out, racing, and that was just got me super keen even further. But the drive back wasn't exactly that good across the Nullarbor. But yeah, that was awesome. And then, every state in Australia, Dad would just be in the Ford Fairlane, just driving us everywhere. So
taking you around.
Yeah, it was.
That
awesome.
was your school sport. So when you're in school, you did study and you weren't into other sports. Bikes was your sport.
No, I did a lot of footy as well and cricket. I'd get home from school as well, and my next door neighbours would be playing cricket on the street if I wasn't riding. So we always were doing something different. But in the end, it kind of gets to that point where you have to choose something, So yeah, the bike riding, it was. I just loved it, mate, and I still do, So yeah.
And what about school itself? Study, schoolwork. What did you like about school?
Oh, I didn't like much about school, to be honest with you. The girls I liked, but yeah, I guess the study side of it, and it wasn't really me. The sporting side of it, that interaction with team interaction with footy and whatnot was pretty cool. I enjoyed that and made a lot of friends. Still keep in contact with a lot of school friends these days, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I guess study side of it, it wasn't really for me, mate.
What, did you finish school? Did you get all the way to the end?
I got to about year 11. Yeah, that was it. And they wouldn't let me back in after that. So moved on and started full-time work, basically, yeah. So
they wouldn't let you back in? Why?
I had a little bit of a reputation in school, so yeah, they wouldn't let us back in,
Oh, yeah. Go on. Tell me more. Say as much as you can.
No, I can't.
It's so long ago in the past. Surely you can talk about it.
It was a long time ago, mate.
All right.
I can't remember it. It's that long.
It was something, though. Come on. Give me more.
No. It's went from Brighton High to Mawson High, basically.
Oh,
yeah. So
rough guys.
yeah,
Buddy. Brighton boys. So you're one of them.
I was one of the
come
Brighton
on.
boys.
Give me more. Give me more juice. Come on. What happened?
There's not much I can give you, mate. It's I just in the end I wasn't going. So like
You
it
weren't
was
going to school.
Yeah, it wasn't. We weren't going to school. We were riding bikes or doing something different. So yeah, having fun.
And okay, who were some of those boys that you're having fun with? Did you ask not to complete school with a group of you, or it was just you by yourself?
No, not at all. It
No?
was. I mean, it was quite funny. I guess a lot of the boys I hung out with were a little bit older than me as well. Like Sean Visser, who I'm still best mates with, who was best man at my wedding. I still see him quite a fair bit. Georgie Watts and fair few of that DJ crowd, like Derek Downing, all that crew. Like
Derek and Andrew.
we were just hanging out, and those guys were into their bands and their hip hop and gigs every weekend. So we were kind of doing that more, which was such good fun.
It was.
Yeah, it was really good.
It was heaps of fun.
Yeah.
So you finished year 11-ish, and what'd you do then?
Year 11, yeah. God, I got a couple of good friends I went to school with, Rick and Michael Serace. Were working at JR Surf and Ski at the time. So yeah, they got me a foot in there as a casual position, working in the Myer Centre there, and that just evolved. I was there for about 10 years in the end. Ended up moving over to the Grenfell Street store and working with quite a good bunch of crew there.
And they were Mick and Rick.
Mick and Rick were pretty much in the Myer Centre store before they left there to go on and do daily grind, which is, I think everyone
Tell
knows.
us a little bit about your perspective of that origin. Go on. You knew them. It sounds like you know them pretty well.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like for what they did, seeing that opportunity for skate and
What year are we talking here?
That was 2000 and I reckon 9, 10, I reckon 8, around about then. Yeah, that was, I guess, when Mick and Rick sort of started daily grind with another guy, Scotty Turner, who was sort of heavily involved not too recently. And
you were working with them in JRs though.
In JRs, that's sort of, they got me my start there in the industry. I didn't really surf that much, but I just loved the fashion side of it. And
that's the store in the city, Grenfell Street. Is that what it is?
I moved from Myer Centre over to Grenfell Street. Yeah, that was the biggest store, and that was just pumping in the day. Yeah, and we used to have some pretty busy days there, so that was cool. Made a lot of new friends there as well, and that sort of got me a bit of a door into the repping side of things as well, So
what was your role in JRs like through the years? How did that progress?
Full-time managing, and then did a lot of the purchasing for the store. That was probably for about a good 3 years, just doing all the purchasing. That was pretty
And you're
cool.
still pretty young. You're in your early 20s.
Yeah, I would have been, probably 19, 20, 21, around then. So that was pretty cool. And that's when I kind of left there and got out and started up my own agency, doing some stuff there and repping for a few brands. And that's when the bike thing sort of kicked in again. Like there was probably a few years there where I didn't really ride too much, for about probably 3 or 4 years. And then
it was work orientated.
Yeah, totally. So
you stopped your BMX racing. That had stopped?
Stopped the BMX racing
16,
at about
17 or whatever.
About the age of, I came back, we went to, going back a bit, we went to, I guess, World Champs in Florida, which was pretty cool. Peter Moore used to sponsor us through Stanley Cycles.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, legend he was. But I knew Pete quite well through, obviously, the Co-BMX Club with him and Dot Braithwaite and those guys, growing up with them. And Pete always used to look after everyone through that club. It was all through SABMX, basically. He took a group of us over to Florida or California to start with. We travelled through there for about 3 weeks, just doing local club races and whatnot.
How old are you?
I was 15 then. Yeah. So that was pretty cool, racing club meets over there. Jesse was on that trip as well. Racing Worlds, and it was unbelievable.
So are you and Jesse head to head, your teammates?
Jesse was younger
group?
than me,
Okay.
so he was still looked after by Pete, I think, with Cassat back then. Yeah, so, but it was an interesting time for Jesse because I think the Americans realised how quick Jesse was, and being an American world
And you're
champs.
right there, you can see.
Oh, yeah.
You can see.
Yeah, Jesse,
I mean,
Jesse
everyone in Adelaide knows fucking Jesse's legend, but to see it, and to be there, and you're a bit older too. You can the young man, he smokes it.
Oh man, he used to win races by 20 bike lengths, man. It was just ridiculous, So he was damn good, that's for sure. But the Americans knew it, and they stitched him up in the final. Even in the heats, so he couldn't get through to the final. So yeah, that was 87. We were there for that. Yeah, so came back, raced state champs, ended up winning that at Happy Valley. And then, called it quits and, kind of did the work thing for a while. And
you just dropped kind of bikes altogether.
Dropped it.
It was,
had enough for a while, had a bit of a break. And then moving on from that, I guess a few of the boys I went to school with, Craig Felix and those guys, they were all really getting into it, and I ended up getting myself a hardtail and going out and riding. And like we were doing the Chambers Gullies runs and, like quite a lot of the old crew, Joffer and all those guys, just Saturday bunchies and whatnot, out just having fun. It was amazing back in the day.
And that's like mid-90s you're talking now? Yeah.
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 And that got beer break.
Yeah.
That was that was kind of my lead into having a go at some racing, basically. Had this hardtail trek that was, it wasn't even a hardtail, it was a rigid trek that I used to just ride everywhere. And we ended up trying to remember, it was like, I think Devil's Gully, I think was probably
Is that an early one for you? Yeah.
first one.
On the
yeah.
other side of the road?
Yeah, exactly. On the other side of the road. I ended up just racing that thing. And from there I was hooked.
What year's that? That's maybe 97, 98-ish?
Probably about.
You reckon? Maybe?
Yeah, about 97, I would say.
Yeah.
Yep. Because I guess going on for that, I guess within 12 months I was on a dual suspension bike. So yeah, it kind of all happened pretty quick. So yeah.
And who are some of the guys that you remember from those early days? Like, what's your early memories of, I've come out of nowhere and I'm just going to bring my bike to this forest and race it down the hill with these other guys? Who? What stands out?
It was just a crazy scene back then. Like, it was such a chilled scene. Probably, obviously Nugsy, Felix, Flanders, Big Trav from JT's, Sean Bowden, all of that crew, Chris Dimble, Wildy, like.
How did and we're talking about mountain bike racing, like there's mountain bike riding, would you ride whatever, but then we're talking about a race. How did a race feel? Like, what was a race about to you? Like, you rock up, it's Saturday morning, it's practice or whatever. Like, explain, how does a race work back then?
Muscle
how did you do it?
Muscle memory, man. It's just like, once you strap a plate on, it's just like you're having a crack and you're going for it, so...
Keep that in there for us, Yatesy. Keep that tucked in there, yeah. Makes your voice sound sexier as well.
Oh, beautiful. I guess back then, it was just, like I said, just you strap a plate on, you're in the gate, you want to have a crack, and I think...
You want to hear that, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. While you're actually just peeling through all the bong smoke as you get down the hill, yeah. Back in the day, it was an experience, and it was loose, but it was such good fun.
Who are a few more of the characters, like not in the racing? We're not talking about competitive riders. Who are a few personalities that stick out to you that made the scene? The Inside Line Mountain Bike Club we're talking about for a minute here.
Dan Courier, Joffa, bloody Big Trav. Like I said, Flanders. God, let me think. God, even Dave Mott and his girlfriend back in the day, mad story. We drove a minibus to Mount Buller. I remember there was probably about 20 of us on this minibus.
Were you there too? Because I don't remember.
It was nuts.
Yeah, that was so much fun.
Yeah, that was my first.
I didn't know anyone. We all didn't know anyone.
No, Tyson as well.
I remember Darren O'Grady with his stinky farts. Yeah. That was a standout.
Yeah, he won the uphill race that year we went. Yeah, what a freak. He was just like, I didn't ride up the hill, I just grabbed my bike and shouldered it and ran. Pretty much. That was the only way I was going to get off it, yeah.
Brother of Stuart O'Grady we're talking about here, so there's maybe a couple of genetics in there or something.
Yeah. Yeah, he was living around the corner from me, actually, old Daz.
Yeah.
But yeah, bump into him every now and then.
But yeah, so bus trip, Threadbow, 94.
Nah, Buller.
Buller. Oh, that was before.
Yeah, we went to Buller. Yeah,
okay. Dave
Mott drove the bus, and Stomo, Leith Sadler, all of that crew. Like, yeah, it was such a good trip. Like I said, I still had the rigid trek, so racing down Buller on a rigid trek. I think my time was about 10 minutes something. I crashed about 10 times, but just had a ball. It was amazing. Yeah, so. Yeah, it was.
How did you end up meeting those guys?
Well, through Craig, through Felix, and I knew Leith through Stanley Cycles, all of those guys. So, yeah, and just riding pretty much on the weekends with all those guys. So.
And that would have been 1993 then?
Pretty much.
Like 31 years ago.
Yeah.
31 years ago.
Just like
that was your first trip to a mountain bike downhill race,
Just like yesterday, mate. Just like
31 years.
Yeah, a while back.
Yeah. Well, you've seen it progress a long way since then. Where does your head take you about remembering that race? Do you still go to events now?
Yeah, look, when I can. I guess family life, keeps you pretty busy. I've got a couple of young kids, so I guess their sporting and their life takes, priority these days. But when I can, yes, definitely. I did a couple of the state series rounds earlier on this year. Raced national round at Eagle this year as well.
What category do you race?
I ended up racing elite, still, because,
Yeah, crack, eh?
I ended up 14th.
Not on a sandbag, the bloody age group.
Yeah, I thought about it, and then I saw it was quite funny.
You're up against Jamie or someone.
Some stocker, yeah. But I saw, there was only like 3 people in our age group, and that's quite funny. I changed over, and then I saw Mitchy Delphs was in Masters as well. He changed back again. So, yeah, all the old boys just ended up back in elites, which was pretty funny.
Excuse me. All right, take us back. We'll take a few steps back. Your little working journey, like you're in JR, so you've been in surfing, in retail, and all the rest of that. Where did that change into bike level?
Probably about that 98. I reckon it would have been where I had the chance. Like I said, I started my own agency and got out of JR's.
What's an agent? Tell us more about.
So I started up Yates Agencies, which I was working for a company back then called Monza Imports, which did Fox and RockShox Tram. Quite a few pretty good brands, as well as Arnett sunglasses. And that was, I guess, my little foot in the door to the bike industry, it's always been my passion. So, got some pretty good connections through there. Met quite a few people. Back then it was Rob Eva who was, running the tram side of things. So got to know Rob pretty well. And his offside Dylan Colson as well. Those boys helped us out quite a fair bit over the years through racing and sponsorship. So that was pretty cool. That just had me travelling all over the state. Also down to Tassie, I was looking after a few stores down there as well, Northern Territory, Alice Springs, around that area. So that was a pretty cool side of it, and it was all commission based back then. So it was pretty cool. Yeah,
working hard to get some bonuses and all the rest of it.
Yeah, definitely, and it was quite good, I guess. Like family life, being married, that type of stuff as well. To be able to help out around home, that's important, Zol.
Tell us about. Tell us before you go to you and your younger family. Tell us a bit about mum and dad, and then we'll work down the ranks. Tell us a bit about your mum and dad.
Yeah, mum and dad are still with us. They're just up at Aberfoyle Park actually. So I think mum is one of 8 children, so came from a big family. I always remember we had some pretty massive Christmas shows at Grandma's down at Brighton there, a bit of backyard cricket and everyone getting amongst it. So I always remember those days fondly. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Dad, he's still with us. He was pretty much like a big influence for me with my riding, and I know. I reckon I heard you talk to Jamie, or I think it might have been Jamie or Jay Moore, about just one thing in your life that you kind of remember, that there was, it was Cross Keys one weekend, and I hadn't come in the fittest to this state championship, and Dale Wood was just smoking me every race. Dale, who I was talking about before, he was smoking me every race, and he beat me by 4 or 5 bike lengths. And we got to the final, and Dad just said to me, look, you put your mind to it, you can achieve it if you want it. This is where you can get him. And sure enough, that's how it rolled out. I ended up winning that day. And it's just always stuck in my head, that it's just if you put your mind to something, you can really achieve it. And that's always stuck. So he's been a big influence for me along the journey for sure.
Was he into bikes
Not at all. He was into his baseball, so he was a state pitcher, and loved his baseball, and it's kind of cool because my little fella is playing baseball at the moment, so he comes down and watches the games, and it's awesome to see. So
he identified you boys had a passion for bikes, and so whatever you guys want to do, that's what we're going to do.
Exactly. He took us everywhere, and I think he just loved, we had some pretty cool bikes back then, and he would just love tooling and tricking them up, We would just get on and ride them, but he would just have them turned upside down, tweaking something, doing something new on it. And yeah,
Loved
I think he was just, so passionate about it as well. Loved seeing us doing well, but just loved the cool shit.
And now he's a grandpa, because you, at some point in time, you had some kids. What happened there in your world?
Yeah, so I've got one of each actually. So I got Willow, who is 13 now. 13 going on 21.
Tough age. 13, 14.
Yeah. So yeah, she's just running a bit of lip, bit of attitude at the moment. It's pretty funny. And then
so all the dads out there, it will happen. At 14, like, it gets really tough. I'm telling you from experience, 2 daughters and other people ahead of me, 13, 14, there's a minute. But keep going, sorry.
No, you're right. Like you said, it does happen, definitely. So, and then, I've got Hartley as well. So he's the little fella, 11, loves his sport, his baseball, lacrosse. Both the kids are into their lacrosse heavily. That's mother's influence. So, she played quite a fair bit back in the day. Yeah. So
she did.
She did. Yep, she did all right for herself. Yeah.
She did.
Yep, so she represented South Australia.
Her and a few friends that I know as well. Nikki, hey, hello out there.
Yeah, hello, Nicole. So the kids just, as long as they're active and outdoors and having a crack at the baseball, lacrosse, netball, dance, whatever it is, you know what it's like.
Supporting them.
Yeah, you're just out there.
Yep.
So, but yeah,
while they want you in your pocket on your team, take all you can.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But going back to you, so you were back to bike riding, back to competitive downhill racing. You got that trek back in 93, 94, and you're riding along, and then Inside Line comes along. They start doing slaloms and downhill races. How much a part of that was your life involved in?
Yeah, for sure. I did a few of the Marble Hills back in the day. That was pretty cool. Like when they were just slalom, and then I reckon they had a downhill event there as well. But yeah, that was a good time for sure. I think I was still on the same bike back then. But yeah, like I said, it was almost, there was so many different people out there just hanging out and having a ball. I think that's why it was so contagious, it's just word of mouth back then. It wasn't pick up the phone and ring somebody, it was just like everyone out on a ride and, yep, this is what's happening this weekend. Here's your flyer, chuck that in your back pocket. So yeah, that was the kind of cool thing. It was a big part of our life back then for sure. Yeah. And
then you had a good BMX background. You had good skills behind you, and in the downhill racing, you're getting some good results as well.
Yeah.
At some point, you go, I'm a pleb riding a track, and you go, oh, can I get sponsored? What can I get? How does that go in a young man's mind before you're buying your own bike with your own bits, and then you say, actually, I'm getting some results. Can someone give me something else?
Well, it was more being good mates with Chris Dimple, with Wildy. I don't know, you've seen our height difference. He ended up, Chris can sell anything. He ended up selling me his Craftworks dual suspension bike. So Chris was looked after by Rob Crafter.
Yes.
Through Craftworks back in the day. So that was my start really. I ended up buying that bike off Chris and racing that.
Perfect for you.
Yeah. But we didn't know any better back then. Coming from a BMX,
it had dual suspension. It had travel.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, it went up and down and rode over shit quite well. But yeah, I got to know Chris quite well, and Evan James as well. So we were pretty much on the Craftworks team back then. That's kind of how it started.
What year?
Probably
roughly
99, 98, 99.
Yep.
Yeah. I didn't know. I was slowly getting quicker and quicker, and then I guess we had a national round at Wollonga in year 2000. I remember it pretty well. I ended up winning that Paul Kalish was second behind me, and Chris was third. I always remember it because Shane Woad and Rob Eva had driven across the country to get there. And Woady back then was just a man. Like, his technical skills were out of this world and still are, you know. But yeah, he came to Adelaide and the Yellow boys smoked him. So yeah, it was pretty awesome. But that was 2000. Yeah. And then from then on, I think to about 4, I was on Craftworks until I started working with Monza Imports, who were importing Intense. So yeah, I went from a Craftworks onto an Intense there. I was only on Intense for probably a 12-month period. And then, another bike brand came along who I started working for then as well.
At that time, back at the Intense stage, what did a bike like we're talking about probably the best bike you can buy on the market. Do you remember what you'd spend on a rig like that back then?
Oh man, it was out of control. Like, I was just
what it would cost. I mean, people might get bonus, they might get, but if you're a person from the public, if you had to buy that frame and bike and kit, do you know what
that probably would have been about close to 10 back then, I reckon. Yeah,
huge dollars.
Yeah,
I mean, in comparison to what's out nowadays, it's it's all right, but in the day, that was the best of the best.
Oh man, I was blown away. It was what Kovarik was racing, you know. He was on at Wynnum World Cup, so to be on something like that and riding that, it was just, those bikes were amazing back then. Yeah.
How does that compare today? I mean, we'll get to conversations about where you're at now, but does that compare?
Look, yeah, definitely suspension wise, and their setup has always been amazing. I think they were early leaders in that suspension platform, you know, with what they did. And I just remember riding that M3 down Mount Buller, which is probably one of the roughest tracks going around, and it just, I was just floating over stuff. Yeah, it worked amazingly. Head angle was probably off a little bit, you know, back in the day.
A bit short and squat.
Yeah, a bit short and squash, but yeah, the rear end was just amazing. Yeah, they worked a treat, definitely. Wish I still had it.
Speaking about bike brands, you've went through the bicycle industry and you were doing your importing, and then that evolved to something else as well, yeah? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I ended up working for Giant from about 2005 through to probably about 3 years ago. Yeah, so that was a long relationship working with those guys, which so many different roles over the years working with those guys. Based here in Adelaide. So, it was pretty cool.
And that was the first. We're talking about you had a brand specific shop, whereas in the past most bike shops in Adelaide were a mixed, conglomerate brand.
Yeah, definitely. It was. I guess it more started with, when I was repping for the brand and racing for the brand as well. And the store came along probably 5 years later. So I was an agent for the company full-time for a good 5 years before the store came along in 2011.
And how did that eventuate?
Look, I guess the opportunity came up.
Because there wasn't a store before you said 2011, is that right? That's when Giant in Victoria Square, is that where it was?
Highmarsh Square.
Highmarsh Square.
Yeah, so basically no other brands were doing it. I think Giant were probably one of the first brands to just do, one branded stores. The opportunity came up. I know my old boss Ruddy came to me and said to me, Darren Rutherford, who was heavily involved in the downhill scene back in the day, for a little while, raced a bit and loves his moto, the old dog. He came to me and said to me, "What do you think? We're looking at opening up the first Giant branded store in Australia, and we want to do it in Adelaide." And I was just like, "Fuck yeah, let's go!" Yeah. So it was,
do you know why he picked Adelaide?
I don't know. I think
because that seems a bit unusual. I mean, there's plenty of other states that are generally regarded higher. Is that good?
I think back then, most things, Adelaide was a bit of a testing ground. I think if most things worked in Adelaide, it'd work elsewhere.
Companies around the world, if it works in Adelaide, it'll work.
Yeah, totally. So, and it did. I guess for those first sort of 6 years, it really pumped along. Definitely, it was quite busy. So yeah, I started that as a manager's role, working there full time, and there in Highmarsh Square we had such a big store there. Had a few good staff through as well. It was good times. It was busy, and yeah, I guess it kind of finished up. Still going actually. It's still going in Highmarsh Square. Yeah, new owners have taken it on, but yeah, it was good experience for sure.
And leaving that experience, I mean, I'm sure, well, maybe let's just hang there for a bit. Cheers. But hanging with the Giant store, you were there for how long? And so essentially you started, you worked with Giant and Darren Rutherford, and we find a location, we find this. Tell us a little bit about that process. How do you start the first brand designated shop in Australia?
Yeah, I think it was pretty much probably a 12-month process finding the right location, and we looked at a lot of locations. I guess where Highmarsh Square is, it's virtually around the corner from where I worked at JR's for 10 years, so I knew...
Familiar.
It was familiar, the foot traffic with the amount of office crew walking through, like, you know, it was always going to be busy in that location. We paid an arm and a leg for it, but yeah, it was definitely quite busy constantly for those the first 6 years I was there. And then, yeah, I guess 12 months, it probably took us to find a location. And then we had some pretty good shop fitters that just got in there and smashed it out quite quick. And we had...
A huge gamble, I'm assuming.
Yeah, look, I mean, at that stage, I guess in the cycling industry, I guess Giant still is. It was solid, yeah. I mean, they carried everything from 12-inch kids' bikes through to your 20 grand, road bike back then. So, yeah, it was one-stop shop basically for bikes. So.
And that's because at the time you would have a bike shop, and you'd have Giant alongside Iron Horse, alongside Specialised. They were kind of semi-specialised, not referring to the name, but in one store you'd have 4 or 5 different brands with a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Giant decided we're going to go on a limb, and we're going to have a purely designated, this is all us.
Yeah. I mean, they had everything then from, like I said, the kids range through to your person who's going in to buy their first bike and maybe race it like I did years ago, So you had your 700
and
commuters
transporters
and then you had guys winning Tour de France on the bike. You had guys racing World Cup downhill or whatever, So it was their product was pretty proven back then for sure. So they had a pretty solid reputation, and the presentation of the shop and how it was fitted out was done pretty pro back then and set a standard as well, So it was definitely a pretty good place to work and come to work to every day. Yeah.
And did every single day work? Like, did it just go like clockwork and no failures, no faults?
Shit, no. Definitely not.
Can you share a couple of cock-ups or, where?
Cock-ups. We had a few break-ins, that type of thing, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember, because I always had the alarm set up on my phone, I remember getting a phone call one night. It was the alarm company, and I had to jump in the car and drive straight in, and I got there and the front doors had just been kicked in, and there was a brand new Rain Advance Pro Zero, so 14 grand bike, just in the doorway, just sitting there like standing up by itself against the door. And this guy just comes walking up to me, and I'm like, he's like, "Hey, bud, I'm just staying upstairs. I'm a FIFO, I was just on the balcony having a beer, and I just heard the alarm going off. I looked down, and there was this guys walking out with bikes, and I ran down and jumped on one of them, but he got away." And I was just like, "Fuck, are you kidding me, mate?" He's like, yeah, they didn't come back though. I was just like, "Mate, you're a champion." Like, so it was, we ended up saving a few bikes and whatnot, but I ended up going and buying him a carton of beer and dropping it into it. Yeah. Bought him a case of beer and went in there, but that was a pretty funny memory. But yeah, we retrieved the 2 bikes back. They were riding around Victoria Square the next couple of days, which was pretty funny. Yeah.
That's smart.
Yeah, no, not at all. Apparently their mate gave them to them. But yeah. Other than that, God, I don't remember too many cock-ups. We had some pretty good nights there.
Like business, like did business always flow? Like transporting, shipping, supply, delivery, Christmas time, like
the whole COVID,
high pressure.
The whole COVID thing was pretty hard to deal with for sure. Being in retail, that was very different. With trying to, I guess, create business that wasn't there. With the foot traffic coming in the door, so that was always interesting and very difficult time for sure. I definitely feel for the retailers out there that went through that. That was hard work for sure.
Yeah, you kind of forget about the COVID thing, but it was you could ride bikes, but only within a kilometre of home.
Yeah, but you couldn't sell a bike to a person. It was non-contact. So we would sell a bike over the phone, or we would have a transaction when they would come in, and we would have to wheel the bike out after we'd made the transaction through a window. It was just.
And how long that? A year? How long that was a long pause?
Yeah, God, that would have been on and off for a year because it got bad, then it eased up, it got bad again. It was. And
so, how does that affect your stock and everything? Like you've pre-ordered. I'm assuming you have to order 6 months in advance. Like, tell us about the ordering process to supply a retail store in the city.
The demand through COVID was off the hook. It was out of control. Like the amount of 750 to 2 grand bikes that were going out the door was just it was unbelievable, because you could go ride your bike or you could go for a walk. That's pretty much what everyone was doing. You felt safe.
You were by yourself, pretty much.
Yeah,
You're breathing fresh air.
I remember going for a ride with a family, and you haven't seen families for that long because you were isolated. You'd be riding along the bike path and you'd run into family. You'd stop and have a chat because you haven't seen anyone for that long. So it was a crazy time for bike sales, that's for sure. Yeah.
And that led into the next thing. Giant bicycles in the city, Adelaide CBD, a popular busy store in there, and then you thought, time to change?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'd been with the company since, like I said, 2005. I think I'd kind of done what I could do there. I just needed a change, needed to freshen up. The opportunity, I looked at what, I guess, the company I'm working for now, Pond Group, they own quite a few different bike brands, and I guess I was actually riding and racing against the boss here in Australia, who was still my boss, Graham Moffat. I guess we had a chat, and I spoke about a few things on the bike, as you do, and the opportunity came up. I had no idea the whole Santa Cruz thing was on the cards, and it was more just trying to in I guess Australia, they do brands like Focus and Kaukhoff, a couple of German brands, and they were doing Cervelo quite strongly as well, which is, I guess the biggest road brand in the world. I guess the opportunity came about that, I met with Graham, and he mentioned Santa Cruz and the fact that they were getting Santa Cruz on board, and I was the perfect fit for it. So it was definitely good timing, and I'm there now, and I love it. I work with a great bunch of crew, great bikes, man, insane bikes.
I mean, you've had decades of experience, so if anyone's going to know, you're going to know.
Yeah.
You ride them, you sell them, you understand the process, you understand logistics, you understand all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
Keeping the customer happy.
Oh, totally, and that's what it entails. I guess my role now with internal sales manager, I'm speaking to shops on a daily basis. And I enjoy that. You enjoy the feedback you're getting. You live the experiences that the shops are having, and I guess I just try to cater for what they need. And it's pretty cool. I mean, we've got some pretty cool brands that we work with. Cervelo and Santa Cruz, and we do Reserve Wheels as well, which is only gaining more momentum at the moment. And Juliana, the female Santa Cruz brand, it's pretty cool. I'm loving it.
And you're still riding regularly today. What sort of? Tell us. You've raced BMX. Tell us all the different types of bikes you've ridden, and you've probably raced on all of them, I'm assuming.
It all started with a Ricardo back in the day. that progressed to, once we sort of met Peter Moore, to a red line. That was my real first sort of race bike. I wish I still had it. That had flight cranks and everything. It was such a good little bike. To what did we had? We had a 09 as well. So that was probably my last sponsor with Peter. That was such a cool bike as far as the BMX side of things go. And then we had, where do we go to from there? I guess, that we had a Taiwanese company which was called MT. It was called MT Racing, which was a sponsorship thing that my dad started. And that was for myself and my brother. And they were like a Taiwanese brand that my dad was sort of buying from. They were pretty cool, just a chrome ollie, pretty trick little race bike. Then I went to, I guess, onto the mountain bike side of things. It was more from the Trek. We went to Craftworks, so had several prototype Craftworks. Like I had probably one of their first, well, I did have their first trail bike, which was
Tell us a little bit about Craftworks. There you go. Pause there for a minute.
Yeah. Rob still is like a bloody legend of the sport. Like he was one of the first guys to ever be making his own bikes here in Australia. It was pretty rad. I always remember it was like Rob, and there was another guy who did bear bikes as well, who was, I think, Queensland. But they were heavy as hell, those bear bikes. But yeah, Rob's bikes were pretty bloody good back in the day. They weren't the lightest things going around, but they were pretty indestructible. But yeah, I guess, like I said before, like getting to know Chris and those guys and Rob and being a part of that team, it was a pretty cool experience. Like I travelled to so many races with Big Ev in his White Falcon Ute back in the day. But yeah, it was...
And Ev was more cross-country. Ev was a fit bastard.
No,
I mean, he's a good downhill as well.
He started with downhill, yeah, for sure, and then transitioned
and he's a big boy too. And you guys get mistaken in the old videos and everything, and I'm sure I'm guilty. Like,
dude,
is that Ev or is that Yatesy?
Still to this day, man. That's an ongoing joke. Yeah.
Is that Ev or is that Yatesy?
No, his calves are like 3 times the size of mine.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, we got mistaken quite a fair bit over the years. It was pretty funny. I think he's even gone along with quite a few stories. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. And like, yeah, a lot of those bikes that Rob made back in the day, we tested and rode and raced. I remember racing his first prototype trail bike we had a dual slalom. No, it was a 4-cross race up at Hallett Cove. Did you ever get to that one? Yeah.
Well, a couple out there.
Yeah. I ended up they dumped a heap of dirt and shaped it. And
Shane did a bit one with a proper start, go inside line one, and I did a spike across one as well.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. It was kind of in that sort of that gully.
Yeah.
Funny enough, my brother just lives up on the hill from it now. But yeah, I ended up winning that on that prototype that weekend. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
And at the time, racing, I mean, the boys that were racing, the guys that were racing, we're all mates, and it's all competitive. Like you want any advantage, anything you can get. Like there was no hostility, but in the same thing, you wanted to beat the next guy. Yeah.
Oh, dude, me and Felix were best mates, but in the gate, I remember just chopping him so hard in that race. Like, it was just, I don't know. That's just what you did with the BMX as well. Growing up with BMX, you just wanted to be first to that first turn, and that just never goes away, I guess.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Once you cross the line, it's like done, But yeah, good experiences.
Put us into your helmet. You're racing downhill, and you took your downhill racing, pretty seriously. Yeah. What was in it for you to race downhill?
Look, it kind of turned when I went to Whistler in 2006. And that kind of flicked the switch, basically. I went there and saw what racing could be. Like, it was freaking huge, man. Like, I'd never seen anything like it. It blew me away. And to make it even better, I was there with Jimbo, Matt West, Dave West, Frenchie. Like, we had about 10 of us staying in a house there, and we were just riding every day. And we ended up racing Crankworks, and we all got some pretty good results, I remember, like some top 20s and whatnot, against some of these guys that were racing World Cup. And from there, it was like, well, hang on. Yeah, I could probably get a bit fitter and take it a bit more serious, And once I got back, I really sort of got into it, and it was quite funny because like my wife's lacrosse club were doing what they call now CrossFit, you know, back then. So I would jump in with them and do some training with them, and the difference that made to my riding, it was huge. And that's when it, you know, it kind of clicked. You know, I started, you know, getting some top 10 finishes overall series in the national series, and you know, some top fives and podiums, and yeah, it kind of flicked then. So 2006 through to 2010-11, yeah, it was all full guns. Yeah,
nationals,
Yep.
traveling, interstate to races.
Yep.
Tell us about some fonder ones.
Oh man, Buller was always a favourite to go to. Not just for the after parties, but I mean, the tracks and the racing was so good. Like, you were going to these national rounds back then. I mean, back in the day, we had no social, so it was all magazine shit, you know, like Decline Mag, Dirt Mag, everything. So you're opening these mags, you're seeing Rennie, you're seeing Shooter, you know, Woodell, you're seeing Rando, all these Aussies that are killing it on the world stage. Gravesy, you know, these guys, you're racing against them at national series, man. You know, that was just insane. And it was just a good opportunity to get to a race like that and see where you're at, you know.
And you're in the top 20.
Yeah.
Like, often, you know, you've probably been up there with these guys.
Yeah, you kind of get there. And like, I just remember, like, I guess the Eagle round here, we had Gravesy and a few other boys come over, Mitch Delfs, you know, back then they were all sponsored riders racing overseas, and you know, myself and Rishi ended up on the podium, you know, both times. Mill Cavalier as well was there, so that was probably one of my fondest memories, like standing on that podium 2 years in a row with Rishi. Yeah, that was pretty cool. But just Queensland, Illumbah, you know, these tracks that just going to different states and racing a lot of different stuff that we grew up on, or in Adelaide, the tracks weren't that difficult back then. So I guess to be able to go to those places to, I guess, enhance your skills and learn more was just amazing, and to do it against the best guys in the world
and get a good result.
Yeah, it was amazing, man. Like, yeah, it was cool. It was cool.
You mentioned a couple of, well, a young name there, young Rishi. You've seen a few youngsters in Adelaide, and you've helped them along the way. Tell us about a few youngsters that are part of your heart.
Oh man, like we had a cool little team, little giant team there for a while with myself, Will, and Dave West. You know, I mean, Dave was top 2 in Australia there for a while, well, for one season, I know that. And like, I haven't seen, you know, a local guy that can corner a bike like Dave. You know, he's just still to this day. You go riding with him and he probably hasn't touched a bike for a month, and he still gets out there and rips. Same with Rishi as well. Like, Rishi's style on a bike is just loose and just makes that many different shapes on a bike and makes it look easy, you know. But yeah, I guess helping those boys out along the way has been pretty rewarding. Yeah, I guess who else along the way? I mean, even to this day, like, I mean, I've helped Kale out, Jamie's young boy, a bit, you know, with getting a leg up on some bikes as well.
That's like a couple of generations again.
Shit, I mean, like I mentioned Whistler before. Yeah. I was in Whistler with Jamie, you know, so we were racing over there and hanging out and partying back then, you know. So it's kind of cool to see Kale come through and just have that bug, and yeah, he's super keen. It's good to see, and it's so good to help him, you know, get that leg up as well. So,
and how did that evolve? Like, Adelaide was a place where you'd get in your car, you'd get a trailer, and how many bikes you can fit. Like, we didn't have good bike racks. There's no 4 right bike racks. There's no 6 bike racks. You fit however many bikes you can in your van, or you have a trailer. What's a weekend with the boys? Like, who are you doing downhill runs with on a Saturday, Sunday, and where are you going?
So we had a car and we had a trailer. It was like, you know, those rubbish trailers you get out of the cages around them? It was those with carpet along each corner. So we would have both bikes just hanging over both sides. We would meet at Westie's house, which was just near
Morialta there?
Yeah, the bottom of Morialta. So we'd meet there every weekend without fail. So we had Morialta, we had Horsenells, and we had Waterfall Gully. So we'd meet on a Saturday, we'd go do, some Morries, head across, and we'd do all 3 tracks in a day. So it'd be a full day riding. It'd be myself, Frenchie, Matt West, Dave West, Ryan Norton would come along. God, who else? Ben Trigger, Trigger. Who else? Yeah, there was just whoever would come along. It was just good times back then. Everyone just pushing each other. Definitely. Yeah.
You mentioned a name there, Ben Tregarth. Give me a Trigger story. Come on, keep the people happy.
I always remember this race. We were at Bennett's. No, it was at Mount Torrens. Yeah, at Dazzleland, and they had the on-off jetty section there.
Yeah.
Like you come out of the forest and you come down, you jump on, jump off. And I'd gone down before Benny, and I'd done a loop and just watched him come down, and he's just jumped off and just misread it and just pulverised himself into the backside of the lip. And it's just one of those moments where it's just, I don't know what, he sounded like a squealing pig, and like he could not talk or anything. And I just ran over. Yeah. I think he did his spleen and his wrist and everything, and I was just like, I always remember, he always tells me he remembers just looking up and seeing me, and I was just like, don't worry, mate, just breathe. You'll be right. Shake it off. Stand up. Let's go. And, oh, mate, he did a number on himself there.
He goes, and still to this day, like if he's going to do something, just don't put himself through one screen. He'll put through the rear windscreen and he'll end out the front as well. If he's going to crash into a parked car, he'll do it properly.
We would always do the Boxing Day rides, right? Remember those?
Yeah.
He would come along, and within the first 5 minutes, he's done a cutty and crash, and he's on his back and ripped an arm open or something. Like, there was always a Tregarth story to this day. And the funny thing,
he was quick as a racer.
Oh, he did.
You keep going.
He was like in the day. Like,
if he didn't crash,
exactly.
If he didn't crash, he's good chance of winning.
Yeah, shit, yeah.
But probably 98% of the time he crashed, unfortunately.
Oh, kamikaze Tregarth for sure. Yeah, he's done some numbers on himself. I mean, he only done a number on himself not long ago, coming down the freeway on his road bike.
That was a kangaroo's fault. That wasn't his.
Of course it was. Yeah. He told me he didn't touch the brake. He thought he could get around it, but yeah. As Benny would.
Split-second reactions.
Yeah.
And so downhill racing, split-second reactions, like what goes through your head? You're on a race run. You've qualified well. State round, national round. What goes through your head when it's on the line? I reckon I can do this.
It's kind of hard. Like some of the best runs I've had, I honestly can't remember. Yeah, like you remember bits and pieces, but you just generally get in the zone that much that you're just that focused that it just flows. Yeah, and they're very rare, those runs, so I've had a few at state champs where I've just been in that zone and that flow state, and it's been a good day. Other times when you've had thirds or fourths, you remember those because you remember your fuck ups. You remember just going offline in certain bits and pieces. But I guess later on in my career, it's funny. My wife always said to me, like, "What are you stressing about the result for? Don't think about the end result. Just do it. You can do it, so just do it." And that's always stuck in my head. And that later on in my career, that really works. And even to this day, I try not to think about that end result and just ride, have fun with it. It's easier to do later on in life, but I guess as you mature. Yeah.
But you can relate that to family. You keep the family, you got to pay the bills, you got to do all this stuff. You want to ride, you want to have some fun.
Yeah.
How's your balance going with negotiating all of those things at the moment?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, like I've said, my kids and my family take priority with what they do. But they understand that this is my passion as well, and any chance that I can get out and get on the trail and ride and have that therapy, it's to their advantage as well, because I can get
less grumpy,
a little bit cranky if I don't get out on the bike. That's for sure.
Everyone seems to be saying, just if you got a shit day, just go ride.
Oh man, it's amazing. You just forget about everything, especially like we do a Thursday night ride with the crew from work, and it's just at work, you do your work things, but on the trail, you just shoot the shit and talk about so much different stuff. It's pretty cool. You just forget about everything.
Yeah, nice. So, all right, tell me a tough tale, adversity. I'm gonna throw it can be work, life, business. If you're happy to share, like I know at the minute there's been a few people that have listening to some of these podcasts and they go, oh, I've heard your story, and man, we've had a shit day. Something went wrong. Have you got a story where something went wrong that you could share with someone to them to know, oh, we can get through it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess towards the end of, my days working at Giant, there was, from Giant, I guess the store got bought by Pushies. So Pushies Online, they had
and that's when there was online was...
It's huge.
It hadn't started yet, but at that point, you'd still go into a bike shop to buy stuff.
Yeah, totally. And I guess Pushies had their retail outlet through, Canberra and their store up there. But there was a real uncertainty from when I was employed by Giant as to where I was going next, because there was no guaranteed, employment. Had young family coming as well, so that was real uneasy for me. It was a good 6 to 12 months where there was that uncertainty, and that was pretty tough. I guess it's worked out in the end for me, but yeah, I guess that probably stands out massively for me. Being involved in the industry and not knowing where I was going next was kind of hard to deal with, for sure.
You're going to fall on your feet somewhere. It just depends where.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah,
exactly. And having that confidence to know that, I guess you've been in the industry and other people have that confidence in you that you can do another job, So, yeah, it was a tough time.
And the flip side of that is, Giant, everything what you're doing now, still challenges, I'm sure.
Oh man, every day.
Where's the future? What's Yatesy doing in the next 6 to 12 months? Work, bike, family. You got a holiday planned?
I would love to. I mean, we've got, Masters World Champs in downhill, which are here for another year up in Cairns. Look, I'd love to get up and do that. I didn't get to do it last year. So ideally, I'd love to do something like that. That'd be pretty cool. Try and get some rainbows. I guess I've got some state champs, I've got some national champs, but never really had some rainbows. So to do that as a master would be pretty cool. That would be, that would be high on the list. So
you still want to compete? You want to keep racing?
Yeah, man.
You're not stopping racing. You've got 5. You'll keep racing till whenever.
Yeah, man.
Till your legs don't work.
Exactly. It's in the blood, I think. So, mate, I enjoy it. I love getting out of the races and catching up with everyone. And I mean, even like the last couple of years, like I think it would have been Wollonga where we had the e-bike state champs. It was the first one we had,
I think you beat me then, bugger.
Seeing yourself.
You were chipped that day, though, I'm sure.
Yeah, no doubt.
I just couldn't pedal.
We had Moggos and those guys out as well, but just seeing all those old faces, and I think even Marshy had started sort of getting out again, so that's kind of cool. Getting out and catching up with crew that you haven't seen for a while, and it's I'm still, I guess, involved with sponsoring some of the Gravity Enduro stuff as well through I guess the company I work with. So just any support and that I can do like that is pretty cool, and just mate, it's in my blood. I just I want to keep racing as much as I can. And
so e-bikes. A dirty word in some regards. Like, you on the e-bike? Is that once you've been on it? I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
How do you go back? Like, tell me.
It's hard to go back, man. Definitely. Like, I had like the Santa Cruz Heckler SL like for most of last summer, and we were doing like all the boys. We had an e-bike summer last year. Like Cam, who I work with, had Heckler SL. Lockie, who I work with, had a Bullet, Santa Cruz Bullet as well. So we were every Thursday night we were onto it, and the amount of laps you can do on those things, man, it's like we were just lapping Blair and Brownies like on a Thursday night, hour and a half, 2 hours. It was just
Give me a little perspective. Someone's listening, and I ride an analog bike, and then here's Yates and his mates on an e-bike, electric bike. That what range? What can you do? What does it cost? Spend a minute on that.
Oh man, you can e-bikes these days. You're looking. I mean, they're not the cheapest things, but I mean, the bang for buck as far as the amount of trail riding that you do on them, it's well worth it. And I guess there was that kind of when e-bikes first came in, it was the guy that didn't have enough time in his day to ride. It was the guy who was unfit and wanted to keep riding.
Oh, you're being polite now. Fat bastard like me.
Yeah, it was the old fucks like yourself, though. Yeah. But now, like, I mean, they're training tools, man. Like, guys are using these. Like, I mean, shit. Troy raced, their gravity on the weekend on his e-bike. It's fun. What? Like, so did Steve Giebert. Like, they raced e-bike class on the weekend. So these guys, it's you can get into an e-bike now from anywhere from $8,000 up. Like it's.
And is that your more regular ride or no?
Well,
so you today
I'm back on the pedal bike.
27. How old are you now?
39.
Oh, 39. Yeah, sorry.
No, 51 I am now, but I've gone back onto a pedal bike for summer. So I'm on the new Santa Cruz Bronson at the moment and loving it. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Just trying to get a little bit more fitter, but we've just launched a new Santa Cruz VOLATILE e-bike, which doesn't arrive into Australia till like January. So that's like 160, 150 bike, which, full powered Bosch motor. We'll be jumping on one of those as soon as they land, that's for sure. Like, yeah, they look like a hell of a lot of fun. Yeah.
I'd love to, I think, and for another time, talk about the technicalities of what's coming and, in that realm of things. But look, I reckon we're coming close to, wrapping this up. I'm just checking stuff here because my stuff tends to run flat and cold. But we'll finish. I'll try and finish on a positive note. You've had a bad day. How do you get out of it? For whatever reason, what's some positive words for someone that's be down in the dumps and go, what do I do to get out? Where do you go? What do you do?
I get on the bike, basically. Yeah, it's like, I mean, I'm lucky enough I ride to work most days, so I guess that pedal home for a good hour or so just is perfect, Like we were saying before, if you can get out on the trail or just go for a ride along Linear Park or along the Torrens or anything like that, it just clears the head. It's just, I think that's probably part of why I still ride a bike, I mean, there's a competitive edge that I love, but there's just, just riding along the Torrens on my gravel bike, and just.
But you can't do that. You don't have a bike. Today, you don't even have the energy to do that. What do you do on those days? Surely there's a couple of days it's like, I can't even get on my bike.
Go and play golf. Yeah, look, I mean, just get outdoors, basically, find your family and get outdoors and do something that interacts and is enjoyable for sure, that makes you happy.
Family, love, life. Hey?
Yeah, totally.
All right. Well, I reckon we are just about at the end. Well, this is pretty much the end. Give us a little send off. Yeah, so tell us something. What do you got for us?
Send off.
Yeah, this will go viral if you say the right thing, and if it's not, then I'm going to blame you because.
Oh man, look, I mean,
there's no blame.
I don't know. Well, I mean, what do you say? I guess
we're talking at the moment. The community I'm talking to. There was 3, now there's like 17 people watching this. And I think they're interested in the Adelaide community of mountain biking for whatever their reasons are. They're resonating with these people that I'm speaking to, and that's all I'm interested in, to be perfectly honest. You probably know someone that's maybe listening. They didn't know all this stuff about you. I don't know. in your humble approach?
I don't know. I guess there's been a reason why I'm still riding and racing to this day is I guess the community side of Inside Line. I guess the people that get involved and keep the events going. There's that side of it with the race side of it, you know. I guess the friends that you make along the way, the families that are involved, and like Jamie, club president, like who would have thought, Benny A, club president, who would have thought, so like I guess that side of it's pretty cool. But I guess just the riding side of it, it's such a cool thing to be around, whether it's whether it's racing or whether it's riding or whether it's on a road bike or a gravel bike or an e-bike or whatever. It's just getting outdoors and just exploring, basically. Yeah, that's what I enjoy. Yeah.
Killer.
Yep.
All right.
Thanks,
we're going to
man.
call that a wrap.
Thanks, man.
I'll do I got this. I was going to play it before. And it makes it better now.
Yeah. Sounds good.
I'm just going to at the end. Craig Yates, thank you very much.
Cheers.
That's a wrap.
Thanks, all. Appreciate
Cheers,
it.
mate.
Thanks.
Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you.
No worries, mate. Thanks for having me.